Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our live video webinar where we're going to be going through our relative humidity sensor product line. My name is Brant Kasbaum, sales engineer here at Automation Components Incorporated. And we're going to be talking about our humidity sensors today and how that there are a number of differences between our humidity sensors and those that are available in the marketplace. When comparing humidity sensors, it's not always an apples-to-apples comparison. So we hope to show you some of the advantages of our products in comparison to what else is available out there in the marketplace. This webinar is being recorded, so if you're not able to be available for the entire presentation, it will be archived up on our website in the future. And we will be doing a live Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please feel free to submit your questions below. And if there are any specific or more detailed questions that you have that we're not able to get to today, please feel free to reach out to me. My contact info is on the screen, as well as any of the other sales engineers here at ACI are more than happy to help. So let's start by talking about our relative humidity sensors. This is a duct sensor that you see on the screen, and this and all of our humidity sensors use a capacitive sensing element and convert that signal to a 4 to 20, 0 to 10, or 0 to 5 volt analog output. These capacitive sensors offer a higher accuracy reading over a wider span than some of the competitive technologies. For example, we specify the accuracy to our sensors from 10 to 95% of the humidity spectrum, which is much broader than a lot of the other technologies and other sensors offer. Some of the other technologies, resistive and others, they are more narrow, like 20 to 90% or even 20 to 80% humidity. So our sensing element in technology gives a more accurate sensor over a more broad range than a lot of the other sensors out there. We're going to show you some of the different sensors as well, like the one on the screen here is our duct version, and we'll go through some of the options and features of these sensors as we continue on in the presentation. We're going to start by talking about how our sensors are individually tested and calibrated during the manufacturing process. All of our sensors are individually tested. So what that means is when you order a 3% sensor, for example, you can be assured that that sensor is 3% accuracy or better. We don't build, say, a batch of 100 sensors and then average out the accuracy among that batch. Every sensor is tested individually, and I've got a short video here that shows some of our testing chambers and some of the processes that go into the testing and building of our humidity sensors. And one thing I'll point out, like there's Don there, and all of the people that we have working in this department are very experienced and have been here for years. Don, who I just pointed out, he's been here for 15 years. There's Fergus, he's been here for at least 10 or 12 years. There was Dan in the background, he's the supervisor for that department. And these are very skilled, trained technicians who have been building, testing, and calibrating humidity sensors for years, and they're very good at what they do. So when we talk about the accuracy of a humidity sensor, we're talking about the combined accuracy of the linearity, the hysteresis, and the repeatability. So when we specify a 2 or 3 or 5% accuracy on our product, that's the combined accuracy of all of these different factors. And we also take into consideration the tolerances of the equipment that we're building and testing these sensors with. Now, a lot of other data sheets and a lot of our competitors out there, they will list some of these components of the accuracy separately or not at all. So when you look at the accuracy of what your spec is or what your application requires, you have to take that into consideration, because when we say a 3% accuracy sensor, for example, that's the minimum level of accuracy that each sensor is going to have. You're going to get a 3% accuracy sensor or better, and that accuracy is the combined total of the linearity, the hysteresis, and the repeatability, and it's taking into consideration all of the tolerances of the calibration and testing equipment that we use and the components of the part itself. Some of these, or all of these sensors That's for example, the room sensor, I was going to mention too, that this is available with your logo. We can put yours or your customer's logo right on the front cover of that room sensor. We'll show the outside air sensor here next. This is a combination sensor. The enclosure here is our combination sensor from relative humidity and our temperature transmitters. So this device would give you two separate analog outputs. All of our sensors on the humidity side have selectable outputs. They're available as 4 to 20, 0 to 10, and 0 to 5. One simple flip of a dip switch changes the output from 4 to 20 to 0 to 5 or to 0 to 10. They're able to be powered with both AC and DC power, non-polarity sensitive, so there's basically very minimal chance of miswiring one of these units. These sensors have extremely low drift. We specify these sensors to drift less than 2% over 5 years. And that drift can be offset using these same set of dip switches that are on the circuit board. It's one thing that we see in the industry. A lot of people are promoting, or a lot of people are offering a replacement sensor element. And we don't offer that for a number of reasons. One, we warranty the entire unit, the sensing element as well as the electronics, for a full 5 years. If you look closely at a lot of competitive parts and specifications, they might warranty the sensing element for only 1 year, or 18 months, or 2 years, and then warranty the electronics part for a longer period of time. And one of the reasons for that is the sensors will drift quite a bit, and so they will replace the sensing element or offer a replaceable tip or replaceable element. Whereas our sensor is going to drift considerably less than most competitive products, and you can offset that drift right in the field without having to replace a sensor element. Like I mentioned, our drift is specified to be less than 2% over 5 full years, and a lot of competitors specify drift at plus or minus 1% a year, or not specified at all. So because this sensor drifts less than most of our competitors, and that drift can be offset in the field, that means lower long-term operating costs for our sensor compared to a lot of our competitors. No service calls a year or two later, and no extra cost of having to replace the sensor tip or the sensor element. When we look at these sensors, like the outside air sensor that we have on the screen, this is a waterproof, weatherproof enclosure that we use for our duct and our outside air sensors. It's an easily accessible, easy to open gasketed cover with the mounting wings are exterior to the cover, so that means you can install it and get it mounted without having to worry about damaging the electronics inside of the enclosure. We use stainless steel probes, which are very rugged and durable and corrosion resistant as well. A lot of our competitors are using plastic probes and a lot of plastic components, and that affects the long-term reliability of the sensors as well. All of our sensors are available with NIST certificates or calibration certificates. When we test our sensors during the production process, all of these sensors are tested at 3 points along the RH scale, and we can document that in our NIST testing chamber and provide documentation either at 3 points or at 5 points along that scale as well. That's available on request, and we can do that for nearly every single one of our humidity sensors, with just a few exceptions. Our outside air sensor, like I showed a minute ago, is also available with a custom logo. We can put your logo or your customer's logo on that as well. We have a stainless plate wall mount sensor that offers a more rugged indoor enclosure for splashdown or washdown applications. And with this stainless plate sensor, as well as with all of our duct and outside air sensors, we have a process called conformal coating. And that's a silicon-based material that is sprayed on the circuit board, gives it a shiny sheen to it, and that helps prevent corrosion, or it makes the circuit board more resistant to corrosion. And that's something that is greatly extends the life of these sensors and makes it able to work in high humidity environments. And that's a standard option on all of our duct, outside air, and stainless plate sensors. The unit that you see on the screen here is our Touch 2 or our LCD version, and this is available with a number of different user configurable options. We have a short video here that we can show you going through the options menu of this device and how it functions. There's so many options on this part that are user configurable in the field. For example, you can have a combination temp and humidity sensor where you can have the temperature displayed in large numbers and the humidity in small numbers, or vice versa. You can choose to display a set point or not display a set point. You can have the set point displayed in degrees F or % humidity, or you can have it displayed as plus or minus a certain degree or plus or minus a certain % humidity. You can change the backlighting. You can turn the backlighting on or off, or change the intensity of the backlighting. You can lock people out to keep people from adjusting it on their own. So there's just a number of different options, literally hundreds of thousands of different options that this product can be set up and configured for. And stay tuned. Sometime in the coming months, in 2017, we're going to be doing a webinar where we drill a little bit deeper into this product specifically, and the number of options that are available for the Touch 2 and the LCD version of our wall mount humidity sensors. We also have the ability to do a remote probe style humidity sensor, and this is where it simply separates the sensing element from the transmitter board. So instead of having everything packaged in one enclosure, like this duct style sensor, you can separate the probe from the transmitter, and these are available as either 3, 6, 10, or 20 feet lengths with a number, usually 2 or 3% accuracy. We have a Sunshield sensor, and this is a device where our normal outside air sensor, we recommend that this be installed on the north side of a building or underneath an eave somewhere that's not in direct sun exposure, because obviously the sun can heat the device and cause an inaccurate reading. However, in applications where that's simply not possible, we offer this Sunshield, which radiates heat away from the sensing element. That device, you can see here, the housing, or where the transmitter board is housed, is on the bottom of the enclosure, and then it's got a metal probe, the same as this duct style sensor, that sticks up through the bottom, and so the shield radiates the heat away from the sensing element, and it provides a very accurate reading in those applications where it's going to be on a rooftop or exposure to direct sunlight is unavoidable. And this can be combined with any type of temperature sensor as well, thermistors or RTDs or 4 to 20 transmitters. I'd like to take a minute to go through the ordering grid that's on our data sheet to help familiarize you with part numbers. So if you get a request from a customer, you can build a part number and be able to provide your customers with the correct part numbers and pricing upon their request. So here's our standard humidity data sheet, and we're going to look at the second page where there is a ordering grid. Standard accuracies that we offer for our humidity sensors are 1, 2, 3, and 5% accuracies. And again, like I mentioned a minute ago, these accuracies, it's not an average. And any specification that you see on our data sheet, not just for our humidity sensors, but across our entire product lines of temp, humidity, pressure, current, and gas sensors, as well as wireless and interface. Whenever you see a specification on our data sheet, it's not wishful thinking. Every time we list something on our data sheets, it's going to be that level of accuracy. It's going to meet or exceed that specification. So when you order a 2% accuracy humidity sensor, for example, that sensor is going to leave our factory 2% accuracy or better. So 2% would be the worst level of accuracy that sensor is going to be. So our standard levels of accuracy are 1, 2, 3, and 5%. And so that is, on the ordering grid, that's just signified by RH1, RH2, RH3, or RH5. And for our 1% sensors, in order to get to that level of accuracy, we have to narrow down that range to a 20% span. So if you order a 1% humidity sensor, we're going to ask you what 20% span you want that 1% accuracy to be targeted to. That can be 30 to 50, 40 to 60, 50 to 70, 35 to 55. You get the idea. And the sensor still measures the full 0 to 100% humidity spectrum, but that 1% accuracy, we target it and we narrow it down to that 20% range. So for example, if you get a call from a customer who needs a 3% accuracy duct sensor. So we'll start with RH3, which we'll put in the ordering grid here. And then the duct version of that would be -D for duct, which we'll see highlighted here. Our standard enclosure is this circular shaped Euro enclosure, so that's what would come as standard. We do have other enclosures available by special request. We have a NEMA 3R rated bell box, and we also have a NEMA 4X polycarbonate enclosure as well that are available. Our standard output for all of our humidity sensors is 4 to 20 milliamps. So if you don't specify which output you would want, they would come as 4 to 20 milliamps. If you do specify an output, in this example 0 to 10 volts, we would preset the dip switches on the circuit board to 0 to 10 volts, so this would be ready to go and install in the field. If you wanted a temperature sensor added in, there's a separate data sheet for that, but that would go right in between the relative humidity and the configuration. So for example, if you wanted a 10K CP, which is our type 2, you would add that right here, and that would be a RH3-CP-D-10, and that would get you a 3% accuracy duct sensor with a 10K type 2 preset for 0 to 10 volt output. With that said, I'd like to conclude this portion of the live video webinar. We're going to go to our Q&A portion in just a minute. When we talk about humidity sensors, I wanted to mention also that every single one of our humidity sensors is CE certified, they're RoHS compliant, and they're made right here in the USA in our ISO 9001 certified factory. We offer a full 5-year warranty on the entire unit, not just the sensor, not just the electronics, but the entire unit. When comparing humidity sensors for your jobs and comparing our sensors to some of our competitors, it's not an apples to apples comparison. There's a number of differences in the product itself. We went through that a little bit. If you'd like more information on that, please feel free to reach out. And with that said, we would love to put the product in your hands for you to compare side by side with our competitor's product. In fact, in a lot of cases, we would put our 5% accuracy sensors up against our competitors' 2 and 3% accuracy sensors based on how they're built and tested, as we mentioned a few minutes ago. So if you're interested in getting our product in your hands and getting a sample to compare side by side, please feel free to reach out to me or any of the other sales engineers here. I'll put our contact info up on the screen here in just a minute. This is the last video webinar that we're going to be doing for 2017, but stay tuned. I'm sorry, for 2016. Stay tuned. In 2017, we're going to be doing more video webinars, more product specific. But in the meantime, we're happy to do custom webinars for you and your customers to help train your employees and help your salespeople. We're certainly happy to do that at any time. Please feel free to reach out to our marketing team at marketing@workaci.com, and we can get something scheduled for you here at your convenience. Here's my contact info. I'd like to say thanks to everyone for watching our video webinar series here over the past several months. Wish everybody here at ACI wishes you a very happy Thanksgiving next week. Please stay safe in your travels. And with that, we're going to open it up to the Q&A portion of the webinar. Please feel free to continue to submit your questions below. One question that we have here is, if the sensor becomes saturated, can they recover? And the answer is yes. Yeah, if you're in an environment where the sensor gets sprayed water on, or for example, an outside air sensor gets some driving rain or snow, yeah, the sensor, that won't cause any long-term damage to the sensing element. The sensor will recover from saturation. It does take time for it to physically dry out, but yes, if the sensor does get saturated or it does get to 100% humidity, that's not going to cause any long-term damage to the sensing element. Another question is, do you offer any other analog outputs for your humidity transmitters? Yes. Our standard outputs are 0 to 10, 0 to 5, and 4 to 20 milliamps. So every sensor that you would see in a catalog would ship with those outputs built into the unit. We do have, by custom order, the ability to do 0 to 1 volt and 0 to 2 volt outputs as well. And for the Touch 2 and the LCD version, the wall mount sensor, those have the ability to do a 1 to 5 and a 2 to 10 output as well. So we do have some other output options available. If there's something other than that you're interested in, or that your job specification requires, please feel free to contact us, and we'll get in touch with you, and we'll get in touch with our engineering department to determine the feasibility and the availability to do other outputs. But we do have the ability to do numerous outputs here. Question is, can the transmitters be used in harsh environments? And that's a good question, and yes and no. It depends on the actual environments and the types of chemicals or the types of materials that are going to be in the air. We get the question quite often, can the humidity sensors be used in a pool area or a room where there's an indoor pool? And yes, they can. The high chlorine content in the air and the high humidity will wear out the sensor quicker, and in most of those cases, we're not able to offer the full 5-year warranty. However, we do, like I mentioned a little while ago, we do have a sensor, a stainless plate sensor that is much more rugged and durable than a standard wall enclosure. It's got a conformally coated circuit board and the ability to recover from saturation. So this unit can be sprayed down and washed down. And this unit separates the sensor from the transmitter, so it's a much more rugged, and it'll hold up a lot better in harsh environments than a standard wall mount enclosure will. And the question is, please explain the difference between 1% and other 5% humidity sensors. And I'm assuming that question means why we ask for a 20% range on our 1% sensors. And we talked about that briefly a minute ago. In order for us to get that level of accuracy, we have to narrow it down to a 20% range. So if you order a 1% accuracy sensor, we're going to ask you for what 20% span you'd want that 1% accuracy to be calibrated to. The sensor still works and measures the full 0 to 100% span. However, we would limit that 1% accuracy to that defined 20% range. Is that what you meant? A question was asked by Clint. Clint, if that doesn't answer your question, please reach out to us, and we can talk about that in a little more detail. There's another question is, what combination humidity sensor with temperature sensors with combination temp and RH sensors, can the temp sensor be 4 to 20 milliamps also? Yes, we do offer a combination humidity transmitter with temp transmitter, so you can have multiple 4 to 20 outputs. The one concern with that I would point out is our humidity boards. Those can be AC or DC powered. Our temperature transmitter boards, those are only DC power. So you would have to get a DC power supply to the temperature transmitter portion of that. They don't share a power supply, but you can get one device in one enclosure that has both humidity and temperature transmitter outputs. Just have to get a DC power supply to that temperature transmitter in order to power that output. Question, Craig continues, is dew point available as well? We don't have a single device that measures dew point. What most of our customers do is use a combination temp and humidity sensor like this, and then calculate dew point at the controller, and that gives you a much more accurate reading, because these sensors are 2, 3, 5% accuracy. A standard 10K thermistor is plus or minus 0.2 degrees C. And so when using the temp and humidity sensor and then having the controller calculate dew point, you're going to get a more accurate reading than a standalone dew point sensor. So that's the best way that we have to do that at this time. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? So we asked, what sort of things should I be looking for when reviewing specifications of RH transmitters? Good question, and that was something that we hope to go through during the presentation here. One, we want to look at what is meant by accuracy on a humidity sensor or transmitter data sheet. When we at ACI label or have accuracy listed on our data sheets, that's the combined accuracy or the combined total of the linearity, hysteresis, and repeatability. We don't list those things out separately or exclude one or multiple from the accuracy, the total accuracy specification. So that's one thing to look for when looking at humidity sensors. Another thing to look for is the overall warranty of the sensors. How long does a company stand behind their product? And we look at not just the sensing element, but the electronics as well. Another thing to look for is how much are these sensors going to drift. We specify our drift to be less than 2% over 5 years, where a lot of our competitors specify their drift to be plus or minus 1% a year, or not have any specification with drift at all. And obviously, if you install a sensor and the job required a 2% accuracy sensor, you want that sensor to be 2% accuracy, not just today, but months down the road and years down the road. So you don't want a year from now that 2% accuracy sensor to be 3.5 or 4% accuracy. Then you have to go back and spend money and replace an element in order to get that sensor back down to its stated accuracy. So that's another thing to look for. Another thing to look for is just the overall quality and the construction of the product. You know, we use stainless steel probes. All of our duct and outside air sensors come in a waterproof, weatherproof enclosure. All of these are made in the USA and are backed by our full 5-year warranty. So we'd be happy to put these sensors in your hands to compare side by side with any and all of our competitors. Another question just came in. Do you have a training center at your factory that engineers can come and get training? And we don't have a training center per se, but our factory is open for tours, and we'd be happy to invite you into our factory. You can walk through our factory, see how these sensors are built, see how they're calibrated, talk to the engineers that have designed these sensors, and talk to the production guys that are building these sensors. So that is definitely something that we'd be happy to do. You're more than welcome to come here to our factory in Middleton, Wisconsin, and take a walk through and tour at any time. It's middle to end of November, so I would recommend that doing that in the wintertime might not be the most pleasant, and if you're not used to the Midwest or the North, that's beautiful here in the summer. So get in touch with us, and we'd be happy to invite you and take you on a tour through our factory. I don't see any other questions. If there's no other questions, we'll conclude the webinar. And again, like to say thanks to everyone for viewing today's webinar, as well as the entire series of webinars in 2016 from us here at ACI. We sincerely appreciate your business, and any other questions, please feel free to reach out to us at any time. We wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving and Christmas season here in the next few weeks. And with that, have a great day, and we'll talk to you again soon.